happy to be here. Oh my goodness, this is so fun. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for everybody putting in the chat where they're listening from and watching from. It's so fun to be here. This is our fourth book group, so I'm psyched. We started in September and here we are. Thank you for joining, and it's such a fun night. I wanted to thank Joe, my tech tonight, and every night here, my partner in crime. Thank you so much, Joe. I want to thank special thanks to PJ Finn, who helped me brainstorm this idea and bring it to life. To my MVY colleagues, I see Barbara Dacey and Karen, and all the wonderful people who have made the effort to be part of MVY and support. So thank you all for being here as well. Just a couple things before we get started. I wanted to just let you know the next couple books we're going to be reading. I'm Polly Simpkins, by the way, if anybody doesn't know me. The next book we're going to be reading on May 15th is Shine Bright. It's written by Danielle Smith, first Black editor of Vibe magazine, Billboard magazine. And this is Shine Bright, a very personal history of Black women in pop. She's incredible. I've already interviewed her. And following that, in July 17th, Jeff Tweedy's book, World Within a Song. Such an incredible book about the music that inspires us. And I did get a chance to talk to him as well, so I'm going to be sharing some of those clips. But what a great book. Music that changed my life and life that changed my music. So looking forward to those two. And lastly, The Music Never Stops. Peter Shapiro, who started Brooklyn Bowl, Wetlands in New York City and Tribeca, and the subtitle is What Putting on 10,000 Shows Has Taught Me About Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Magic. So all that coming up in the future. Really exciting to just talk about books and music. A little housekeeping. If you haven't been to this before, this is all about relaxation tonight. There's no pressure. No one has to say anything if they don't feel like it. I typically start the evening with a video that I've put together with my son, with some backstory about the book, about Dar Williams, followed by a few clips from our interview. And again, no pressure. Turn your cameras on or off, have a drink, have something to eat, like put your feet up. This is all about just chilling out. So I really want to make that clear, because sometimes book clubs can kind of represent having to be prepared, but we are not needing anybody to be prepared. Oh my God, and Dar, there you are. She's here already. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, exciting. We've all been so excited that you're here. So, so we can get to Dar. Why don't we get the video started? Again, this is a little backstory and a little bit of our interview. And then after that, we are just going to have time with Dar and hopefully hear some music, and just we'll have questions and chatting with her. And I just want to thank you all for being here. It means so much to everyone here at MVY Radio. We love Dar. Dar's been a huge part of our mix for so long, and it's an honor. So we'll watch this video. It runs around 15 minutes, a little over, and then we'll all meet back here.
Dorothy Snowden Williams was born in Mount Kisco, New York on April 19, 1967. She grew up with two older sisters, Meredith and Julie. Dorothy became Dar when one of her sisters had trouble pronouncing her name, and the nickname stuck. She began playing the guitar at age 9 and wrote her first song when she was 10 years old. She went on to major in theater and religion at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut. In 1990, Dar moved to Boston to pursue a career in theater and worked as stage manager of the Boston Opera Company of Boston when she started to write songs and take voice lessons on the side. She has now been writing songs, performing, and touring for over 25 years. In 1993, Dar released The Honesty Room, her first studio album under her own label, Burning Field Music, and went on to record 9 more studio albums, including The Green World, The Beauty of the Rain, and In the Time of Gods, as well as 2 live albums. Known for her sensitivity and expertise in writing lyrics that touch the soul, in 2013, Dar began offering in-person songwriting retreats entitled Writing a Song That Matters, which continue to bring together aspiring songwriters who dream of creating music that makes a difference in the world. Dar's innate musical sense has inspired many through her lyrics, her teaching, and her naturally curious and creative way of moving through the world. Dar is a master storyteller and brings humor, purpose, and insight to her writing. She's the author of 2 adult books, What I Found in 1,000 Towns and How to Write a Song That Matters, as well as 2 children's books following a character named Amelie, as well as
Mhm.
2 music songbooks. I had a chance to talk with Dar recently about writing songs and books and how it feels to create music that brings joy to so many of her fans. Through her signature sound, she provides a touchstone for many who love dancing with her creative spirit, her lyrics, and music that makes Dar Williams a force of good in the music world and beyond.
Leave this house, leave this town.
Good morning, Dar, and welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
MVY, you're such an important musician in our mix in at the station. It's funny, I was looking back through some articles, and I found this article. Well, first of all, I'm sure you're not aware, but tomorrow, the 28th of January, is the anniversary of you performing at Wintertide Coffee House in 1995. That was the
Oh,
day.
wow.
If you
Oh,
can
wow.
imagine. I couldn't find a set list, but I can imagine that was amazing. And then I found this article in the Gazette. It was Barbara Dacey was being interviewed about the 20th anniversary of MVY Radio. And in 2003, she told the story about you performing at the Hot Tin Roof. I wonder if you remember this with Patty Larkin.
Yes, yes.
Like an MVY event. And she said that you had been touring with Ben Taylor at the time. And she brought you into the studio to do an interview. And in the middle of the interview, Carly Simon walked in and was like, I just want to meet you. And it's just such an MVY story, and it's in the Gazette. It's great. So,
It was great. We basically both just like went on about how much we love Ben. So it was great. Yeah.
perfect. Exactly. He is amazing.
Yeah.
So moving on, I know you went to Wesleyan, you're a theater and religion major. I've been just fascinated by your talks. I watched a talk, you speaking at Smith College in 2011, talking about your songwriting process and just the way that you live your life, which inspires so many. You talk a lot about moving into that first inspiration and courting inspiration, a couple of your first subchapters. And I love the quote, it's about valuing the time we spend looking at things differently and talking about poetic thinking. And I know Julia Cameron's a huge influence for you and your kind of daily practice. And I'm wondering if you could just share with us what your daily inspiration practice is and how you address what you call the window opening and how that works for you.
I think maybe the first and foremost thing I want to say, and it was almost the first line of the whole book, was I don't write every day. I don't do anything every day. Except I brush my teeth. And I've come to realize, because after I wrote my book, I read other songwriting books. I didn't want, I kind of want to be up to speed, but I also didn't want to be influenced. So, writing in reaction to anything. But, a lot of them have some kind of thing about daily practice. And I realized that I court inspiration as much as possible. And I do think that Julia Cameron influenced that, because sometimes a person can kind of just tilt their head and look at something upside down to loosen that creative, that poetic thinking, like my toothpaste tube isn't a toothpaste tube, it's a crocodile, and what does a crocodile and toothpaste tube what do they have in common? I can do that, or I can consciously go to a place and say, I'm here to crack open my thinking to, just look at a clock as a circle, and then, look at form and sort of let my associations of memory and philosophy kind of, find new colors. I do both as much as I can to chord inspiration as often as I can. But if I don't find anything there, I don't write anything, and I don't sit down and I don't commit anything to a page. I think a lot of people do very productively. Not my favorite word, but a lot of things come out of that, and they do a lot of like, I'm going to keep this, I'm not going to keep this. I tend to just kind of wait for something to really grab me, and then grab me, maybe not so hard, as I continue to write it over the next days and weeks. It's very important to me to find the time and value the time, which doesn't mean it always happens. And I think that going into some parallel place of, I have to do this, and then like, what's it all about? What is this room telling me, as opposed to what am I telling the room? How is this room the subject of my life, as opposed to the object of things I'm doing to my life? I think all of that is really valuable, and helps to create a very peaceful society, where we're just open. But I going back to the very beginning, I don't write every day, and that's maybe one of the cores of my process.
I have this quote on my desk from the talk at Smith College, and you said, keeping myself open and creative, you have to decide where you're going to bend and where you're going to stand straight. And I think there's something in there too, that bending and just like letting it kind of be what it is.
Yeah, I think, something I realized is that there's this kind of voice that says, come up with a list, come up with a plan, do this, have the beautifully designed planner where you know exactly what your goals for the day is and what they are and how you're going to accomplish them. And then there's this voice that says, just see the sky, just see what's around you. And I noticed that they're kind of actually the same voice. It's like there's this kind of voice out there that pressures us to be accountable for our time. So if I say with like great intention, I sat and really looked at a tree branch, like that voice will leave me alone. But really, it's so personal, like how we spend our time.
I wanted to talk just briefly about some other of the sub chapters. Chord houses, for example, is such a revelation for me as not being a musician and a visual learner. It was just blew my mind. And I'm wondering how you came up with that, just that framework. And are you a visual learner as well? And do you think of them like I wrote down, I usually go where the song wants to go. And you were talking about the blessings in that chapter with chord houses. And yeah, how does that manifest for you? Is it just completely rote by now, or do you still think about chord houses?
It's rote for me because I learned guitar when I was young. So all I was told was, this is a G, this is a C, and this is a D. And the key of G has its two main chords that go with it. And there's numbers that correlate to that. But basically, when you're playing in G, the chords that go with it are a D and a C. And when I'm playing a C, and so, now let's go Tell It on the Mountain, or, let's go play any song, and then, in the C goes with the F and the G, and that's the way that song's going to go. So, City of New Orleans, anything like that. So I just learned the songs and every teacher pointed out to me that they kept on kind of living with these other chords. And of course, in music theory, there's a beautiful reason for that, which is cool. It's very cool, music theory. But, you learn that the E minor is the minor chord that goes along with the G chord, and the A minor is the minor chord, goes with the C. So when you're writing a song, there's just places that one naturally goes when one is saying, that I'm writing actually a song that goes, the way I go, it's not the only one I know. It's not the only one I know. And it can go to a minor, or actually, should I get my guitar? The way I go, it's not. So I find something that goes with my voice, right? So that's comfortable. So, I futz around with the first chord. So, way I go, no, the way I go, yeah. The the way I go, no. So the way I go, it's not the only one I know. So I just know immediately that I can go to a G because it just go, so I go, it's not the only one I know. Not the only one. Because, why not repeat if we don't know what else to do? It's not the only one and I can either go no or not the only one I know. Like, because I know that the B minor goes with the D, so I can just go, okay, because that's rote, I can go to the major or minor mood. How does it feel? What am I saying? How does, like, what's the voice of the song? So it is rote. And then sometimes what's great is that, like City of New Orleans, so I decided at one of my first retreats, I said, we can look at this as a wheel, like there's the chord wheel where it's like the C goes with this and this, and it's a chart, it's like a circular chart. And you look at the chart, or you can kind of do what I did when I was 11 and 12, and you can kind of see them all kind of living together. And I was like, it's like a house. And then I drew the houses. And,
Ah,
and then I went to Steve Earle's Copperhead Road.
yes, I saw that.
It was really, well, it was a real mind blower. I loved it. And I had my group. I thought, well, I'll just, show them my chord houses, even though there's a whole music theory class that you can take there and everything's fine. But some people had not done the theory class. They said, thank you for helping me organize. I know all of the music theory. I know this stuff, but it's true. It's like when you're writing a song, you're kind of going into a house with all these different housemates with their moods, and you kind of just want to kind of be in that house. So the house
Oh,
is kind of serving the process as opposed to what's going like, what is, what am I supposed to do according to the theories? And so my thing is like, if you go like, good morning, Mary. Good, good. Say, don't you know me? I'm a native son. I'm trained, they call the city of New Orleans. That's not in the courthouse. It's a neighbor's house. But
right.
sometimes when you want that extra sense of extension, this is perfect in Zoom, you go to your neighbor's house and borrow a chord and then come back to the key where you live. So I'm the city of New Orleans. And then it goes to another neighbor's house. I'll be gone 500 miles when the day is done.
And moving on to the voice of the song and the overall feel in the lyrics, do you have a comfort place? I was wondering with narration, or as you layer songs like you do so beautifully, how do you settle into the narration? It seems like something that could, just like you were showing, could be so many different choices.
Yeah, and that's hard. I mean, I have to. Um, I I wrote about having a microscope when I was growing up, and it was so great. I don't know where my parents got this thing, but it was like out of H.G. Wells. It was really old, and so you really felt the wheel, like deciding how you wanted to look at this, butterfly wing. You kind of went up and down until you found the focus, and that was right. And of course, in science, there really is something where you can actually see the cells, but for a song, there's a lot of up and down deciding, like the song about, the way I go, it's not the only way I know. Well, is this going to be, big picture, the way of life? Is this small picture, how I schedule my day? Is it a connection between those things? So there's a lot of deciding. There's a lot of trial and error, I guess, but also the what I discovered is that, and what I've discovered with the retreat is that you can have well, for me, what happens is I'll have that first line that comes into my head. So, so there's one that was, so get out of my, so get out of my head, just give me my line. That was, I woke up from a dream with, so get out of my head, just give me my line. And I came down and I stuck it on the guitar because I know where the courthouses live, or where they live in the courthouse. And then soon it came, So get out of my head, just give me my line. I press the buzzer, Like I imagine this person kind of being in some kind of widget factory, kind of just doing what they're supposed to do. But I thought, no, but they feel ethically compromised because they're like, don't tell me how to, don't make me think. I just have to do this because I don't feel comfortable. It's like, what could this be? And I call that like the silver key moment, because I thought, oh, the Stanley Milgram obedience to authority experiments of 1964. That's the silver. So then I had a silver key. I knew which file cabinet to go to and which file to pull. And then, you pull out in your memory everything that you know about that and why it's striking you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching that short little video about Dar. And I would like to welcome Miss Dar Williams here with us tonight. And hopefully we can highlight her so we can all see her. Joe's working on that right now, but there you are. Let's see. Okay.
And you have to unmute me.
Oh yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. Wow. Well, that was a lot from me. I apologize. I've become more concise since then.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? You sounded beautiful, and it was such a pleasure to have that time to talk to you. And it was a while ago, so it's funny, but I mean, and I wasn't sure with the video ahead of time all the details were correct, but that's okay. We about
You
your
got
it. Close enough, right? Well, welcome, Dar. We're so happy to have you. We've all been so excited. We've been talking about it all week that you are going to actually be with us. It's not always that we get our book authors with us in person live. So thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to start with deconstruction, which is a huge part of your songwriting workshops and your process. And I was hoping that you might choose a song, and I don't want to have to ask you to deconstruct a whole song, but maybe just, we talk so much about the backstory of songs and the impetus behind writing a song. So I was wondering if you wouldn't mind, and if you happen to have a guitar with you, you might just share with us a little bit about one song of yours.
Sure. I will do a little bit of the song If I Wrote You, which I wrote a long time ago. And I'm going to do this. I'm at my friend's house and I forgot. I'm down to DC, so this is my there's
That's
my big
perfect.
dated. Yeah, I think this is going to work just fine. And I got the capo and I got his beautiful guitar.
Beautiful.
And so can you see both my hands? Yes, you can. Okay.
Yep.
And can you hear me?
Yes, I think, let's see if we can hear your guitar. I think we can hear you for sure.
Uh-oh, you know what? I'm realizing on my phone, I don't know quite how to get out of the, they're not giving me choices for how to do original sound. Let me just,
right.
All right. Let's see. I'm so sorry.
Don't be silly. Take your time, and it's okay. Maybe.
Can you hear that? You cannot hear that?
Yeah, I can hear. We can hear the guitar. I'm not sure.
Okay. Let's see if I have the original sound option on the thing. It's so funny. People have said this to me before, and I'm like, oh, we'll figure it out, and then we don't. So
it's okay, and it's also
right.
okay if you can't play. That's fine too. But it's always
okay. So well, yeah. This is basically I was sort of based on sort of what I wrote about the philosophy of how I write songs. What I've boiled everything down to is two things: what sounds pretty and what sounds interesting. So like the form is what sounds pretty, and the content is, well, what sounds interesting to me right now. So Stanley Milgram's obedience to authority experiments. And so I started to write a song in Texas in 1996, and it was if I wrote you. That was it. It's like, if I wrote, and it was minor key. And so I had what I call the cues and clues. So it's a short line, it's conversational, it's a second person. If I wrote you, it has a minor key in it. There's something very mysterious, and the answer, it begs the question, if I wrote you, what? So then it was, if I wrote you, if I wrote you. I just repeated it, as Tom Persado Rao says, when in doubt, repeat. So if I wrote you, if I wrote you, well, you would know me. And there I was in my mid-20s, and I was like, and you would not write me again, because in your mid-20s, a lot of times, you unveil yourself to your new romantic partner, and you're like, this is the real me, and they're like, yeah, sayonara. Or you have a breakthrough. But it's a lot about that sort of mutual disclosure. And so I put it on the guitar. If I wrote you, if I wrote you, you would know me, you would not write me again. And I just started to work around what, the questions that I ask, like, well, okay, so let's say this is my story. What story would that be? And I realized that a lot of it was, even though sort of the main premise of the song is a person, in my mind, like leaving a person with a substance abuse issue, saying sort of like, I got sober, I got clean, you didn't. I love you, but I had to get away from that behavior, and I had to kind of get away from where we all have that behavior. Even though that was the original thought of the song, where it kind of hooked in for me was leaving Boston, where I felt so hooked into sort of feeling competitive and insecure and comparative, and thinking I was bad at this and good at this, and anyway, I basically went to, I had the sort of spine of a person getting away from a person that they love, but who has a behavior that they have to get away from. And then I kind of continued to ask myself, like, what sounds pretty? What sounds interesting? And I thought, what's interesting to me is leaving a group of wonderful musicians and a wonderful scene that I was a part of, and still loving them. I think that was the big aha moment, but still needing to get away from them. And so I was able to locate. I thought, well, where did I go? Where did I go? What happened? When there's that kind of crossroads, and you think, what do I write next? Okay, I have this spine, I have this chorus. I thought, well, what happened was I went to a beautiful place that had endless winters in Western Massachusetts, and kind of went out there with the college students, and the fields, and it was a lesbian mecca, so there was no romantic prospect. It was just me and my guitar, and kind of at that year, a very bleak landscape. And I laid the song into it. So the second verse says, and when the spring came and flooded all this, actually, it was very bleak, very cold in the winter. And then when the spring came, there was so much snow that the waterfalls and the creeks and the lakes just exploded. It was just like water bursting everywhere. So I thought about that, and I thought, when the spring came and flooded all the streams, it's like how you got the night you told me all your dreams. And then I also thought about how all these old barns were like falling apart under all of that ice and snow. So I said, when the barn roof sagged under an icy bout, it's like how you shrugged when you knew the truth was the only way out. Because I thought, what happened? What really happened? I was hanging around all of these people jockeying for power and feeling very comparative and competitive and insecure. But, underneath that, when I would be sitting at the bar with a friend, particularly since I have such a girl next door look, for like so many men, particularly, and women, would sort of tell me their dreams, what magazine they wanted to be on the cover of, and what they really wanted to do, and the artists that they loved, that they wanted to emulate. And then, we would just slip into, bitterness, or it's just, just whatever defenses we had for not feeling like we were ever going to get there. And so it was that kind of so anyway, I located it in the landscape that I was in, and I kind of looked around, laid out all of these beautiful visual things around me, and picked up the ones that metaphorically fit to create this story of saying, you know, you're such a valuable person, you're such a wonderful person, and I see that, and I see the dreams underneath the insecurity, and then finally I say, you know, I'm so happy, meaning I'm so happy I left. I had to tell you, and I love you, and you will not write me again. So that was, you know, the form found itself through, you know, sitting down in my landscape, which is Western Massachusetts, sitting down with that story and thinking about what really happened. Because, you know, what happened was I left, and what really happened is that I left a lot of really wonderful, interesting, cool people who it was pulling me down, and were pulling themselves down, and have since stopped. You know, we all grew up. But that's what really happened. I still really loved them, but I did have to get away.
Beautiful. Really. Thank you so much. Like I said, in that, so much layering, and the beauty of your ability to do so is just quite exquisite. And then for it to come out as a song like it does, it's amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I hope that yeah, I won't plague you with the non-original sound on the guitar, but
It's okay.
form finds, I think the thing that's really important to me about writing this stuff is that the form finds you know, the message. I call it the message, not the content. Content sounds so creepy, algorithm, Silicon Valley. So it's like the message of the song finds the form, and the form finds the message. So you might do something that sounds like a Beach Boys song, and you'll be like, well, what part of me is like the Beach Boys? You know, what part of my life felt like the Beach Boys? And you kind of chase the beauty, and the beauty, you know, chases the meaning. And in that way, you can kind of let the song become itself, instead of trying to shoehorn it into what you think it's supposed to sound like, or what you think other people think it's supposed to sound like, which is, you know, useful.
Beautiful. Gosh, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us at your friend's house in DC too, taking the time probably around dinner time.
The light is fading. I don't know. Actually, I'm going to ask if he can turn on.
Oh yeah.
What light would? But I don't know if there's a light that can.
So we
Thank. Actually, this is my boyfriend. Hey. So.
Oh, hi from everyone here at MVY.
I told him all of. So does anyone have a question or anything?
Yeah, so I thought that we could open it up for questions, and if anybody, I'm sure there's lots of people who have questions, and we can just do what we usually do. It's if you can jump in, or if there's a lot of people with questions, you can raise your hand and we can just go one at a time. But if anybody has anything to say and ask Dar, please do.
Oh, what's the backstory to Time Be My Friend? That was I was I had a radial sander. I was sanding a thing, and there was kind of a cord. I was sanding a table, and there was a kind of a cord in it, and I started to sing "Time Be My Friend, Be My Friend," and I thought, well, time is my friend, isn't it? And you know, I think a lot of songs start with a question. Like, well, why wouldn't time be my friend? And I thought, oh no, I have not been a good friend to time. I'm always like, what's going to happen? Like, I'm so impatient to know what's going to happen. And I thought, that's something that probably I'm learning as I'm getting older, is to be more patient and let time tell me what's supposed to happen. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do, and time will unfold accordingly. And so I expanded from that central thing, which is time being my friend. And I realized, you know, and then there were these aha moments, such as, you know, in nature, you think that the winter's never going to end, and you walk past a tree and it literally, like, it seems like it's blooming in front of, you know, it just blooms, you know. Nature gives, time and nature give us so many gifts that we don't even ask for. And I also realized that the biggest gift as I got older is that I have a lot of friendships that I've had for a long time, and that they've unfolded, and that's been actually the best way that I've been able to sort of keep the record of my time, is these friendships that have kind of gotten very deep and complicated. And I thought, if I treat time like that, as a friendship that has been long and complicated, maybe I will have a better relationship with time.
Beautiful. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a question. It's thank you so much for being here. There's like, I'm hearing like so much great stuff, and there's something that you said, form finds the message, and then one of the chapters in the book is the perfect spot between general and specific, and I've really found those two, I guess those two sentences to really dovetail really well with each other, right? Because like one of the things that's happened with me is I write a lot of write a lot of songs, but where they go is they go kind of to a dark place, right? And where I want to really be is I want to hear some of that. What are some of the other options in that courthouse, in a sense? But I don't give myself, I think, sometimes the permission to do that, right? The permission to kind of go in a different direction. I know I'm kind of going in a few different directions here, so I apologize about that.
No, that's okay.
But
No, I get it.
yeah, yeah, but so hearing like I did this little box, right? And top corner is voice and what voice. Right corner is chord house, right? And what's the mood, the picture, and then the construction of the song. And
Mm.
if I play with those, there's one song that I wrote. It's called Unit 45. It's not a big deal, but bottom line is about this retiree who used to be married, have kids, and has kind of forgotten he's living in a trailer park. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
it went to this very kind of dark place, and I never liked how it was going. Right? It was not so much that it had to be a happy story, but what I did
Mhm.
want is to have a different feel to it. And I think that chord house idea, because I had the voice, the chord house idea will kind of layer nicely with that move of that. I don't know what it'll sound like at the end, but
Mhm.
anyway, whatever.
Mm. No,
Yeah, yeah.
I hear
But thank
exactly
you.
what you're sort of like. I mean, I was writing a song with Rob Hyman, and we and it was a song about, frankly, an alcoholic who was kind of, and who's sort of fantasy world around all of the
No, no.
fantasies that alcohol gives us.
Hmm.
That world really sells itself and is very inebriating. Sort of the romance of the old Scotch and the fancy
Yeah,
liqueurs. And anyway,
yeah.
so I had this thing, and he's talking about, and had really sad chords, and we were going through it, and I know I wrote about this in the book, and uh, Rob, out of the blue, introduced a very bright, unusual, lifty kind of chord in it.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, what a great thing music does, because that chord to me spoke to the hope that this guy
Hmm.
had, that alcohol has not replaced his life, it has enhanced his life, that
Hmm.
that it is a supplement to his colorful life, not something that replaced a life that he could have had. And that chord, did so much that I wasn't finding necessarily in the words. And so I like the idea of what I would call just futzing around,
Yeah.
like playing around and saying like, "Ooh, is that mood in there? Is that, I didn't think of it, but is that within within this palette of colors, is there some kind of unexpected color that I wouldn't have thought of, that the music is suggesting to me, that reminds me how complicated our moods and our feelings and our life paths are."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I'm hearing you say, this
Yeah.
sort of like, butts around, try it and see. And
Yeah.
maybe I will find a more complicated character than this kind of, narrative that just seems to be going down. Because you're right, some songs were fine if they just, they go downhill and then they land at the bottom, and that's the end of the song. But
Yeah.
but maybe there's something, you know, what I always say about audiences, that they kind of want to either hear that you really went to a certain place, or that you've brought back some wisdom about how to, you know, improve it,
Mm,
how to learn from it, how to move forward from it. And one of the things
like
that keep
that.
things from just being sort of rock bottom is that we are very complicated. Even rock bottom is complicated, and music
Hmm.
can help us elaborate how complicated even the darkest moods are.
Hmm. No, that's great. Thank you.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jason.
What's the wisdom? Good.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's like no pressure, but you know, some songs people are kind of like, ooh, you know, if you have a song that says, "I went to the fountain to find the answers. I went to the fountain of youth to find some answers." It's kind of like people are going to be like, uh-huh, what did you find? You know, because we all want to know, you know, and sometimes we want the song to be a bit of an oracle for us. But the other thing is just to describe what it's like to have gone there, and all of the feelings we had about wanting to get answers from the fountain of youth. And maybe we didn't get any, but people at least feel consoled by understanding that you understood that journey, you know. And all of the complicated things that entailed, you know, leaving people out of your life and skinning your knees or whatever to get to that
Hmm.
fountain. So it doesn't have to be, but a lot of times people are like, "Ooh, you're at a crossroads. What worked for you?" And they kind of want that to come out of the song. So anyway, the wisdom. But Jason asked a question, and Jason, can you ask it, because you disappeared?
Sure. How you doing?
Hey, Jason.
Hey. Uh, the question was, did you actually write a song to the tune of Waterloo accidentally, or was that just literary license?
Which song sounds like Waterloo?
No, you in your book you say that
Oh,
you talked about accidentally writing to
oh,
someone else's melody, and you say it's, and so you gave an example as if, hey,
right,
and
right.
you work on this song, and then you work on this song, and the melody is perfect, and then you find out it's Waterloo by ABBA.
Right.
I was wondering
Actually,
if
I
that
wrote something
actually
that
happened to you.
I actually wrote a song called Playing to the Firmament, and the instrumental part that we did around it sounded like Dancing Queen. So, but I didn't really want to give myself away all the way. And I know that everyone in this group won't let on, but a very snarky friend heard it, and he was like, "Oh, you know, it's already recorded." And he was like, "Oh, Dancing Queen, nice choice." So no, it wasn't Waterloo, but I do, as I've said, you know, if you in the said in the book, if you discover that you have stopped, stolen somebody's song, you know, word for, you know, the melody, and you haven't recorded it yet, then just change a couple of notes and no one will be the wiser. And that gets us out of, you know, we can weigh ourselves down, and as we're writing songs. And if you hear somebody else's thing and you're like, uh-oh, I took their melody, I cribbed their melody, a voice can come into your head and be like, of course you did, because you're a loser and they're winners and you just stole their song. So instead of going there, you just
Okay.
go, oh, okay, that's kind of funny that I took that. Let me change 3 notes and then make it my own. I'm writing a song now that I realize has a very similar melody to Gulf Coast Highway by Nancy Griffith. So I changed it, but I didn't change it a lot, but I changed it enough that nobody will know.
Well,
And now it's mine, and I don't have to weigh myself down by being like, Nancy's so cool and I'm not cool and I can't come up with my own melodies. I can't with Nancy's, you know, like, stop, just go with it and try to catch it before anyone else does, and then you're fine. But thanks,
uh,
Jason.
I did experience writing a song, trying to write a song in my head and trying to work out a melody and realizing that it was actually a folk song. It was actually, it was from a prompt from Jill Solbu's online class, actually. And she said, write the ballad of somebody, which is what I was already trying to do. And so I ended up writing and releasing that, it just on an album with other traditional songs. So it was actually used Red River Valley to
Mm.
tell the story of Lori Carlton, the woman who was shot last August outside of her store
Mm.
for flying her rainbow flag. So there's always a way to work it out, and the tradition does support that.
Oh
Still,
yeah, the tradition is very forgiving. I actually did something that was based on something, an instrumental from uh, you, when you can't find a friend, you still got the radio, is a song by Nancy Griffith. And I realized that I wrote a song whose melody was based on the instrumental between it. And I played it for Nancy at the Edmonton Folk Festival in a song circle. It was like, I've been burning to let you know, to confess. And she was 100% fine about it. So there we go.
Well, it's also easier if it's a traditional folk song and in public domain.
No,
so
no, that's, yeah, absolutely no. Traditional is great.
fair game. Thank you.
Yes, fair game.
Judy?
Hi. Hi, Dar. Thank you very much for doing this evening and showing up yourself. This is cool.
Oh, thank you.
I read your book twice. I fell asleep the first time, no offense to you.
None taken. None
Second
taken.
time, I finally listened to the final end of it. I've been stuck trying to write something for the past year and a half. I have two questions for you. Who are the people that inspire you? And what is your motivation? I know I heard you singing about or saying about the music groups, which I think is a great idea. I think that would be cool, like kind of like a jam session. Who are the people that inspire you, and who are your influences?
You know, my parents had an alphabetized folk record collection, and it was like B through D. It was amazing. It's like Baez, The Byrds, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Judy Collins, Jim Croce, all of those people to whom they really had the belief, I think, that music could change the world and save the world. So that's like that, they really believed in the power of music. So like, don't spare a word if you can make it what you really want to say, that stuff. So that was it. And then sort of halfway down were the Mamas and the Papas, from which I got my love of harmony. And then farther down was Simon and Garfunkel. And I would say that Paul Simon's probably my biggest influence. And then later on, Bob Dylan and Fairport Convention, Richard Thompson, they were big influences too.
Great, thank you.
Jen?
Jennifer, yeah.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. It's really generous of you to spend some time here. Quick restaurant recommendation. I just moved away from the Washington, D.C. area. Virginia's Darling in Alexandria is one of the best meals you will ever have.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
Ask for Nicole. Tell her I sent you. She's fantastic. Anyway, one thing I really enjoyed your book, and one thing that struck me was the idea that every song is about like 5 things, which was really interesting to me because I've always had this philosophy that a song can be about anything to anybody depending on what that person is going through in their life, and it can change. And my favorite song of yours is Closer to Me, which also is just one of my favorite songs of all time. So Polly, thank you for playing it on the intro here. And I'm curious what it is about to you, or what those 5 things are for you, because I found that song, and it's what, 20 years old, probably, that song? Yeah. For so long, I thought it was one thing. And then as I've gotten older and had different life experiences and perspectives, I find different things it could be about. So I'd love to hear from you what you really wrote.
I bet it's changed for me too. I think, but although I think I have a core belief, I've just watched a lot of people kind of implode, and so there's a lot of if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, there were I think I was with my I was about to get married, and I think that was I was experiencing the fact that both of us, we were in our mid-30s, which felt very experienced. And I kind of like this idea that both of us had gone off and seen the world, and that no one was feeling pinned down. And I think and I juxtapose that with friends of mine who were in relationships where they, male or female or same sex, with their partners. There was one person who was kind of saying, if I can just kind of control you, I can control your narrative, I can control your path, I can control this relationship. And I was like, ooh, I think that's the opposite of what's going to be successful. Like, I think you really got to give each other a lot of freedom. And especially if somebody's kind of depressed, you got to kind of let them get it out before it all comes back together. And I guess that hasn't changed for me. I still believe that very strongly, but people have left accordingly. Sometimes I give them I say, go find what you go find some healing, go find yourself, go find whatever we call that. And they haven't come back, and that's fine too.
Yeah, the line, "Am I the habit you're too tired to break? I want you to love me with every step I take," is just like one of the greatest ever. But I've always thought for years that what you said was what the song was about. And a few years ago, I had this epiphany that I was like, oh, it could actually be about just a person, not a relationship, right? Like just a person trying to find
Oh,
themselves and like be afraid to really like self-explore and like find out who they really are. And it was like them talking to themselves. So
that's fantastic.
I needed you to be the tiebreaker.
That's great. It could totally be that. I mean,
Yeah.
the 5 things is like, but it's not about, it's not about my dog. It's not about like, because dogs really do need to be the habit that you do need to be the habit. Like, okay, so it can't be about like, it can't be about joining the circus. It can't, there's certain things that it wouldn't, I mean,
Right.
at some point it gets just watered down if it's so beyond the axis, the intended axis. It just doesn't quite, and at the same time, you want a lot of room around that axis for people to have their own private orbit. That's encouraged. That's great. That's poetry. But yeah, I think that like a relationship with yourself or with somebody else or with a friend, platonic, or a child, all of those could fit with the 5, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Really, really
Thank
perfect
you.
song.
Thank you. Jennifer. Yeah, you're still muted. Polly, do you have to unmute her?
Joe, I don't know, can you unmute her?
I tried to ask to unmute, but
Yeah, she should be able to unmute herself.
oh no.
Oh, no.
Jennifer, if you want to write something in the chat, you can.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, you got it.
There we go.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I'm a teacher, and I've used a little bit of your book with my students, and it's been great to get them motivated to express themselves and things along those lines. So I've just been quite impressed with the idea of, what happened. And high school students, maybe especially, want to tell a story about, what happened, and they know that's not exactly the way that it really went down.
Right.
So having the paired questions seems to work really well, and it can actually work in a lot of other areas of life as well. We've talked about it, about, just events that happen in life, and like okay, so I'm a teacher, I do special ed, so we've got a lot of behavior issues. So it's even can work with life in the classroom. So I really just wanted to say thank you.
That's great.
It's been amazing at how effective that little, series of pairs of questions has worked. And yeah. So
I love that you call it the paired question. I think that's right. I think that's like, I haven't figured out how to say why I think that's important. Like what happened, what really happened? Where did I go? Where did I really go? It's it's the pairing that's like, the truth. I mean, the real truth, that extra,
Yep.
it almost says I'm
I'm not asking you to answer this performatively. I'm not asking you as the exterior thing. You know, you have access to a poetic truth or an honest thing for yourself.
Yes.
So I'm saying what happened, but then this can be private or poetic. What really happened? And I love calling it the paired question. So thank you.
Sure. Well, it seems to work. Good job, sweetie.
So glad. I'm so glad. And I'm so glad. I mean, for me, of course, there's, Oprah, thank God for Oprah. She said, what do I feel? Do I really want to feel this? Like when you feel panicked, you stop and you say, what am I feeling? And I think that's like one of the secrets of world peace. So I'm glad that you're seeding that in your kids, like,
Yeah.
this is a feeling that I'm having.
Mhm.
I really don't have to punch anyone in the face. I just have to know it's a feeling and just, just know what's happening. So anyway, I do think it correlates to life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Excellent. Thank you.
We have time for one more question if anybody has one. We have 5 more minutes before 8 o'clock. But how fun to hear you, Dar, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah, of course. Anybody else? All those burning questions. I guess not.
That's cool. Well, can
Dar-
I just say thank you to Barbara,
I
to
just wanted to
Polly
say
and
hi, yeah,
Barbara.
hi.
And I was like,
Yay!
that's Barbara.
It's so great to see you and be with you after all these years.
Absolutely. I really, the time that I've spent at MVY was very special, and all of the things that you sponsored because you were such a big part of getting music on the island. I remember all of it, and it was magical. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you. Yeah, it was a magical time with all you guys, you creative forces, just out there and playing your music, and it was so great to have you come to the Vineyard. Yeah, it was great to be reminded of that show, that Hot Tin Roof show, and that interview with you and Pat.
Carly Simon sitting down. Oof. I mean, she's just such a star. She just sat down and positioned the mic correctly. And then we just started talking. I mean, now that I'm a parent, I know exactly, like, she's just a parent who was like, I know, Ben's awesome.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so it was a lot of felling, but thank you. And so I will, if there's no more question, I will sign off, but it's really nice meeting you all. And
We can't thank you enough, Dar.
thank you. Great. I will see you again. I will come out to the island and say
Please
hello.
come visit us and play for us. We'd love that.
Okay, thank you.
Have fun in DC.
I'll take you up on that. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. Barbara, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but thank you for chatting and just saying hi, because I know that was such a fun trip for her and so many memories back then.
Thank you, Polly.
Of course. Thanks for everyone for coming. Our next group is, as I said earlier, May 15th, Shine Bright, Danielle Smith, who is a powerhouse, and it's a great book about Black women in pop. So I hope you can join us. Thanks to everybody for making this possible, and to everyone at MVY Radio, who they're just the best. And, we could never do any of this without everybody pulling together. So thank you.